In our last lesson, we explored the gold standard. We saw how tethering money to a scarce resource provided a stable anchor for global economies. But we ended on a fragile note, the realization that this entire system rested on trust. We had to trust that for every paper dollar in circulation, there was real gold sitting in a vault. Now, we are going to look at the precise moment that trust was broken and the anchor was cut loose forever. This is the story of how the US dollar became fiat currency. Following World War II, the global financial system was set up with the US dollar at the center. The deal was simple. The US held most of the world's gold, so other countries used US dollars as their currency. This was tethered to the promise that they could trade those paper dollars back for physical gold whenever they wanted. The system worked perfectly until the US broke the golden rule and started printing more dollars than they actually had gold in the vaults. Throughout the 1960s, the US tried to navigate the massive costs of the Vietnam War and expensive domestic programs. The US government needed more money than it had in tax revenue. Because they were on a gold standard, they couldn't just print it. So they stretched the truth. They printed more paper notes than they had gold bars to back them up. Eventually, other nations, particularly France, noticed this discrepancy. They realized the US was running a fractional reserve on a global scale. They lost trust and began demanding to cash in their paper dollars for actual, physical gold. Gold began flowing out of US vaults at an alarming rate. The deception was about to be exposed. The US government faced a critical choice. The first option was to drastically cut spending and induce a severe recession to save the gold standard. The second option was to change the rules of the game entirely. On the 15th of August 1971, the world changed forever. President Richard Nixon addressed the nation with a move that shocked the global financial system. He announced that he was temporarily closing the gold window. He ended the Bretton Woods Agreement and directed the Treasury Secretary to suspend the convertibility of the dollar into gold. With that single address, the link between the US dollar and gold was severed. The temporary measure became permanent. The US dollar, and by extension all world currencies, ceased to be a claim on something real. The US dollar transformed into fiat currency. This simply means money that has value solely because a government decrees it does. Money was no longer something we discovered in the ground through hard work. It became something governments could create with a printing press or a keyboard. The implications of 1971 were profound. Money transitioned from being an economic energy storage device into a political tool. The discipline of geology was replaced by the whims of politicians and central bankers. The US dollars are just pieces of paper that we believe to have value because the government says it does. Well, if money can be created infinitely, what happens to the value of the money you already worked hard to save?